Man, you guys were so enthusiastic about our Secret Weapons series that I'm going right back to it, and I'm going to show you what I consider to be one of the best potato dishes. Now, granted, when you see me serve it, it'll remind you a little bit of patatas bravas from Spain, but with all Mexican ingredients. So we're going to start with 1.5 pounds of potatoes. I like boiling potatoes here, something like the Yukon Golds or some of those little creamer potatoes. I like that texture better than I like an Idaho baking potato. And we're going to cut them into small cubes, a little less than about 1/2 inch or so. But the way I like to square up the potatoes and sort of peel a little of the peeling off of them is to cut on all sides, top and bottom. And then I'm going to cut this one into 3 pieces here, and then cut each piece into small cubes. Once you get used to this technique of working with the root vegetables, you'll find that it's just second nature, and it always makes your food look so pretty. So I've got these all to cube now. Okay, scoop all of our diced potatoes onto a baking sheet. I put one of those silicone baking mats down just to protect the pan so that the cleanup is way easier. You could use parchment paper or just work straight on your rimmed baking sheet. This is a 1/4 size sheet pan. Probably a lot of you have the slightly larger one. Now I'm just going to eyeball this, but I want a couple of tablespoons of olive oil just drizzled over all of this. And then I'm going to use my hand. You could use a spoon or a pair of tongs for this, to coat the potatoes in the olive oil. I'm not going to put any salt on them right now. Usually when you're roasting potatoes now, is the time that you would put the salt on there. When you see that they are, and I'm going to do that because I'm going to put the red chili adobo on it, which is very aggressively seasoned already. Slide those into an oven. We can roast these at about 375 degrees, and we're going to half roast them. That'll take about 10 minutes, and then I'll meet you back here to show you how to put the adobo, the red chili adobo, on them and finish roasting them. Okay, it's been 10 minutes now that the potatoes have been roasting here. I said the wrong temperature. You're really roasting these, so that it needs to be at 400, not at 375 degrees. And now we're going to put the secret weapon in here. We're going to use the red chili adobo, so you'll have red chili roasted potatoes. And I'll need about 4 tablespoons to cover these nicely. I'm just kind of spooning it over all of them. And then we'll use a spoon here, big spoon, to stir them around. We just want to make sure that all of the potatoes are evenly coated. Okay, got that task accomplished. Back into the oven at 400 degrees, and this is going to take about 10 minutes or so for those potatoes to get completely tender on the inside. But while they're roasting now, let's make this kind of aoli, but really a mayonnaise, and we're going to flavor it with garlic, which is sort of common in the aiolis that they have in Spain. But I'm starting with already prepared mayo here. About 1/2 cup is what we'll need for this amount of the potatoes. And then I'm going to add to that some blanched garlic. Now you could do this with raw garlic if you want to, but I think it can just overwhelm the dish with so much raw garlic flavor. So I usually blanch it, and I do that very quickly by just covering it with water 1 minute in the microwave, let it cool down a little bit, and you're ready to go. So it's really very fast. Now, first thing I'm going to do is to cut these 4 cloves of garlic crosswise so that they'll sort of hold onto the countertop, and then do the classic rock and chop across it, scooping it up all the time until I have a fine dice. You want to distribute all of this garlic flavor as evenly as you can through the mayonnaise. So once you get it chopped up pretty fine here, you can just keep working on it till it's a very fine mince, or you can do what I'm doing here, which is to use the side of your knife to kind of mash it flat. It's a technique that will distribute the flavor because you're making kind of a coarse puree out of the garlic, so it'll distribute that garlic flavor a little bit more through the mayonnaise. So when it looks sort of like that, then we will scoop it up and put it right in with that mayo. Now I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of olive oil in here, which is going to give it sort of that classic aioli-like flavor because this mayonnaise is not made with olive oil. So I'm just going to drizzle in a couple of tablespoons of the olive oil, and then I'm going to whisk this so that I can make sure that that garlic is beautifully blended here, and whisk it all together like that, and it just has a wonderful texture to it. Okay, so there we go with our prepared, we'll call it garlic aioli here, even though it was something that we just kind of threw together. When those potatoes are ready, I'll show you how to plate. Let's check these potatoes. They've been in an additional 10 minutes. They do need to be completely tender. You'll notice that they look a little bit matte on the top, so usually what I'll do is to just sprinkle a little bit of olive oil over the top of them and then go back in and stir them so that they look beautiful and shiny. And then we're going to scoop them into a serving dish. Boy, they smell so good. You get that combination of olive oil with that red chili adobo with all its spices and garlic. That's beautiful. So now I'll just scrape it into a serving dish here. And I like to kind of pile them up in the serving dish, and then we'll put all of our garnishes on them after that. I mean, these look just great the way that they are. You don't have to put any other kind of garnish on it. But in that patatas bravas style, we'll use the garlic mayo on them. Okay, so we'll just, I got my hot sauce to go here. Hot sauce because this is Mexican version of all of this. And what I like to do, and you know, this is tamasula, which is kind of tangy red chili, a little bit garlicky. So it echoes the flavors of the red chili adobo, but it's tangier and spicier, obviously. And then take the aioli that we made and just dollop it all over this. This will add that sort of creamy lightness, but again, echo that beautiful garlic that's running through all of this now. So you see how beautiful that is. And then we just got one last little garnish, which will be to tear off some of the leaves of the cilantro, and then just let those kind of cascade down all over this beauty. I will tell you, you set these out when you're having dinner, especially if you're going to do small plates and lots of different things to taste. These will be one of the best hits that you have.